Imagine being a kid and every day during school having to stay in and watch the other little kids play. Not because you're in trouble, but because you were born with an illness that affects everything that you do. If that's not relatable, imagine this. If you are an incoming college freshman at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, excited to start school and be away from home, but you couldn't finish out the semester because you have to have 3 major surgeries back to back. Well, that was the life of my older brother, Jeffrey Morris. He didn't choose for his life to be that way, but he was born with a disease called sickle cell anemia that affects his life every day and thousands of others, yet nobody is talking about it. According to Mayo Clinic, sickle cell anemia is a hereditary form of anemia, a disorder where there aren't enough healthy red blood cells to carry enough oxygen throughout your body. Normally, your red blood cells are flexible and round and can move easily through your blood vessels, but when you have sickle cell anemia, that doesn't happen. The red blood cells become stiff and sticky and are shaped like sickles, where the name sickle cell comes from. These uneven shaped cells get stuck in small blood vessels, which can slow or block blood flow and oxygen to parts of your body, causing severe pain and other problems. According to the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, sickle cell disease affects millions of people throughout the world and is common among those whose ancestors come from sub-Saharan Africa, Spanish-speaking regions in the Western Hemisphere, and Mediterranean countries, which means it mostly affects African Americans and Hispanic Americans. I know you're probably wondering, how do you get sickle cell? Well, it is inherited from your parents. According to Mayo Clinic, the sickle cell gene is passed from generations. This means that both parents must pass on the defective form of the gene for a child to be affected, called sickle cell trait. When a person has sickle cell trait, it means that they carry a single copy of the gene that causes sickle cell disease. But a lot of people have the trait and don't even know it. According to an article from Farbros, more than 2 million people in the U.S. have sickle cell trait. I know from personal experience about not having knowledge of this affected my family. My mother knew that she had the trait, but my father didn't. He didn't discover that he had the trait until my brother was born and the doctors told them that my brother had sickle cell disease. This example of my family shows why it is so important to get tested to see if you have sickle cell trait. It is a simple blood test that doesn't take long at all. It is better to know than not to know at all. Having sickle cell disease is a hard life. The symptoms that come from sickle cell are very painful and hard to deal with. One of the first symptoms is anemia. Sickle cells break apart and die easily, leaving you without enough red blood cells. When this happens, your body can't get the oxygen it needs to feel energized, which is the reason why most people with sickle cell disease can't do anything that is too strenuous on the body. Another symptom is episodes of pain, called sickle cell crises. Not your average pain, but excruciating pain. My brother says that the pain he experiences from these crises feels as if someone is stabbing him with a knife on his joints over and over again. And personally, I couldn't even imagine how painful that feels. Another symptom is frequent infections. Sickle cells damage your organs that fight infections, leaving people with sickle cell more vulnerable to get infections. So when they get sick, such as a cold or fever, it is much more dangerous for them than it is for regular people because they can easily get infections that could be deadly. And lastly, other symptoms are delayed growth, vision problems, yellow tint to skin or whites of eyes, and painful swelling of hands and feet. There's no cure for sickle cell, but treatments can relieve pain and help problems that come with sickle cell. But there aren't a lot of good treatments because a lot of doctors don't have the knowledge on how to treat this disease. For such a serious disease, you would think that there would be funding for further research to be done to help treat people who have sickle cell, or to even find a cure, but there isn't. Because of the lack of awareness people have about the disease, there is no funding, and even doctors don't know how to treat people with the disease. So when people with sickle cell anemia go to the hospital when they are having a crisis or other symptoms, majority of doctors have no clue on how to treat them or what exactly should be done. So most patients are not getting the right treatment unless they go to a doctor that is a specialist in that field. But there simply aren't many of those. According to the Philadelphia Tribune, a year ago people were doing the Ice Bucket Challenge to raise money for ALS, and $22 million was raised. Sickle cell anemia is the single most common life-threatening genetic disease in the United States, and it is a treacherous life to live. Even with all of that, the funding and awareness for sickle cell is severely behind that of every other genetic illness, and that is simply not okay. Sickle cell disease is a serious illness that needs to be addressed. Reflect on what I said in the beginning about my brother. Now my brother is doing great. He went back to U of M the next year and graduated as a computer science engineer. He got sick in between then, but he continued until he made it. Now he lives in Boston working at a startup company. Every day he has a constant fight with his illness, having to be careful about the little list of things such as where he can travel to, or how hot or cold it is outside. He has only come this far in his life because my parents made sure that he was able to see doctors that knew how to treat him. But a lot of people with sickle cell don't have that, so they die early or live very painful lives. People everywhere in the United States start challenges and many different things to raise money and awareness for other illnesses. So now is the time to do the same for sickle cell anemia. Imagine the lives that you could change, because you never know who in your life is affected by this.